TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television. Ubiquitous.
Good morning and thank you for being with us. I am Lero Edu welcoming you to Sunrise.
Don't be surprised to see me. It's a Saturday morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome.
Well, if you're thinking of going out of Lagos via the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, you better give yourselves 3 hours to get out of Lagos. To get out of Lagos and start your journey.
And start the journey.
Yes, because the traffic out there is, I got to Alakbere at 7 o'clock. I got into the studio 10 minutes ago. Is it up to 10 minutes?
It's not up to 10 minutes.
Oh, sorry, okay. Well, I exaggerate.
I don't know. It's really, really tumultuous. I normally would want to get into wherever I am, calm and all of that, well ahead of time.
Couldn't manage that this morning.
I know you couldn't.
Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't manage that this
But
morning.
normally you'd be here like
7:30.
2 hours or thereabout before. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And I was looking at all that traffic. Well, while in all that traffic, I was looking at the road and I was thinking to myself, they say they're going to finish by the end of April. Okay, end of April is only 2 weeks away. I want to see what magic they're going to do to finish all this work in 2 weeks.
Well, as the popular slang in Lagos today, miracle not tire Jesus. So
not true. Nine walk with that.
And God knows how many other roads like that are being treated, given the same treatment all over the country. But it took us a while. I remember once we had a discussion with the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, and I asked him, don't we have certain maintenance structures so that these things don't dilapidate for so long? I'm talking about the airport and all. So that these things don't dilapidate for so long.
You leave them to dilapidate to 90% before you start doing something. What happened to when it's 1% and 10%?
When I asked him, I think it was him or the former Minister of Transport, he said, my job is to fix these things. There are certain agencies of government that it's their primary responsibility to make sure that these things don't dilapidate for so long.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. So who compels them to do? Naturally, that goes to the Federal Roads FEMA, Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. Is there a maintenance plan to ensure that these things don't reverse and retard?
Third Mainland Bridge.
Third Mainland Bridge,
With all that eczema. They shut it down 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
Did some work on a Sunday.
Yeah, so why?
It's only a quarter of the job.
So what is the system in place to ensure what we know as a maintenance culture? There is an agency whose responsibility is to ensure that roads don't get that bad before they fix them. This Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was fixed in the 70s. And I don't know. Well, anyway, that's just food for thought for us. Another thing that will probably give you equal concern is what have we learned from the experience of the Chibok girls? I was looking at how the number of, I've not been able to count the number of abductions that took place after.
Well, we understand that there are over 200.
So,
of school children.
Of school children.
Yes. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Another
one. Yeah.
Where
so
kidnapped.
Is it that we're not learning from our experiences or what?
And it's just like we have just let that Chibok thing just die. If my child was one of those children abducted, would I just, 9 years on, those girls have become young adults. And we don't know what's happened to some of them. Yeah, some of them were lucky if you ran away, if you were rescued. But what about the rest who have been married to these, I don't even know what to call them?
I don't know. It's very, very, very disturbing, the things that we have to deal with in our country. And I am just hoping that we have enough systems and structures to ensure that these things don't perpetuate themselves. Because we are looking, I mean, since the 80s, I've been hearing that song by Tosin Jegede, parents, listen to your children, we are the leaders of tomorrow. So which children? The ones that have been abducted by the same people who are supposed to protect them? I thought we understand that the common parlance that we understand is that the primary responsibility of government is the security and welfare of its citizens. So if that were the case, how come we're having these disturbance situations on our hands? And it seems intractable.
It does seem so. It does. It does.
It is.
The Chibok girls is a very touchy subject as far as Nigeria is concerned. Because as far as I'm concerned, it portrayed us in a very bad light internationally.
Of course.
And even within Nigeria, we ourselves, we should be embarrassed that over 200 students were just spirited away in the middle of the night. In what were they moved? In trucks? And nobody saw the trucks rolling away in the middle of the night?
And that's just one incident, and several others have come as a result of that. In fact, there are still some of them, by the daily count that the Daily Trust newspaper does, there are still some of them, beside the Chibok girls, who are still in captivity at the moment. So what caused those things?
Everybody just kept quiet about it. Government is not saying anything, is not, well, okay, does not seem to be doing anything.
Because as far as the mothers and fathers of those children are, government is not doing anything. So yes, you're spot on. As far as those parents are concerned, their children are still in captivity. Almost 100 of them, from the count of the Amnesty International and a number of other concerned bodies in Nigeria, almost 100 of them are still in captivity. So definitely they are no longer kids. They're no longer innocent to the world.
Yeah.
So their lives and destinies have been completely altered. Now, is there a way we can separate politics from the issue of social protection for our children, for ourselves as a people?
What is the primary purpose of government?
Security and welfare of its citizens.
Thank you.
There we are.
I must take you back, since you mentioned the Minister for Aviation, who was buying those fire engines, to remind him that the air conditioning at the airport is not working. And that should be priority. And there's no water in the toilets in the airport. That should also be priority. You use toilets in other climes, in airports in other climes, and there's water and there's tissue paper. You know, you can do your business in comfortable circumstances. You get to Nigeria, you want to hold your thing till you get to your house.
You know,
even if it takes you 5 hours.
My concern really is, it's the job of certain people.
And those people have not been heard to have been fired.
So when anyone is complaining about Nigeria not doing well, first of all, look in the mirror. How are you contributing to it? I mean, that should be the #1 litmus test. How are you contributing to Nigeria not working? The next thing anyone wants to do is get out of the country. Fine. We'll be here by the time you're coming back, and guess what? You're going to be paying higher than you're paying now.
Now that you bring that subject up again,
yes.
I'm sorry. I mean, we are just a breeding ground for other countries to come and harvest.
Okay, does that mean that we are producing something? We're producing brains, right?
Who was the guy who discovered that thing in the computer? Nigerian.
Yeah.
Who was that guy who took a baby out, did surgery, and put the baby back in the woman's womb?
Nigeria.
In Nigeria. So what is all this?
So we're exporting brains, that's what you're saying?
We are exporting all our brains. Those who should stay behind and fix this country or join in fixing this country.
But there are those who
They're all leaving because there is no enabling environment for them to thrive.
Well, let's just...
Nigeria trains them and then lets them go.
Is that the reason the House of Representatives is saying that they shouldn't be allowed to leave the country?
That's another discussion entirely. And we discussed that last week, so let's leave it well alone, please. Let's leave it alone.
Oh God. Well, there's so much to talk. Yeah.
Did you see the video of that building collapse? It was like something in the movies.
The fact that someone...
And I just thought, no. The first time I saw it, I said, this is not real.
The fact that...
Then I heard Nigerian voices and I heard Yoruba. And I thought, oh, in my country. So it's not a movie then.
The fact that someone anticipated that that could happen and recorded the video is ingenious on its own. But I think it also speaks to what we talked about earlier. We need to strengthen our systems for ourselves. Can we pay attention to strengthening the systems in our own interest? Can we find a way to ensure that the structures and systems that are supposed to provide the checks and balances for safety are always in place? Can we also promote human value over profits?
Yeah.
Can we find a way to do these things? I continue to refer to Section 23 of the Constitution that talks about Nigeria's values. One of them is discipline. For God Almighty's sake, can we prioritize nation over profit? Fellow Nigerians over profit. You know, I realized something, Alero. I realized that human values, value for human lives, value for the sanity of productive people in your organization is an A-class quality or virtue of top executives. Go to Forbes, you'll find out these things. The day I found out that humility is a huge asset for top managers in the world, I was like, uh-oh, what's this? I didn't know that it was on Forbes.com that I found it. Really, and not just one article, several articles on Forbes.com about humility.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
This thing about money in Nigeria. And I'm trying to wrap my head around when we became like this. We haven't always been the kind of people that we are today, who put profit above everything, profit above life or lives.
So there are some estates that buildings are collapsing. There are some estates that buildings are not collapsing all over the world. What are those ones doing right where the buildings are not collapsing? What are those ones doing wrong where the buildings are collapsing? Those are questions that we need to ask ourselves.
And Ayo, in this same country, there are some buildings that are over 100 years old and still going strong.
Exactly.
In this same country.
Well, incidentally, that's the first thing we're going to be talking about this morning.
Exactly.
So, Lagos building collapse, that's the first item on our agenda today.
9 years of Chibok girls' abduction. That's the second topic we're going to look at.
This one is very important. Rainfall prediction. What should the governors be doing now?
And CNN and BBC in their weather forecasts have told us that even now, there will be rains in Lagos, or in the Lagos area.
Uh-oh. Well, it started.
It started.
Okay. Next. That's, the next one is?
Lifestyle and technology, finding the balance. What does that mean?
About time, really.
You know, this technology thing. Okay, we'll hear more about it from the experts.
And the artist of the week this morning is a he or a shim?
She, not the she.
She, not a shim.
She's a she.
Okay.
And she's somebody you want to hear from. She's been acting for some time now, and she's a pretty well-known face. So you'll be happy to spend your morning with us this beautiful Saturday morning, in spite of the traffic out there.
Please recover from that already. No, we'll be right back.
Wherever you go, Teramashe. Whatever you do, Teramashe. Your time done they gone. Your beans done they done. You think say God in order for your side, and you want to find another way to prosper. You think say God in order just get your time. I beauty gabel, ileri tolu shey. àìmásìkò ló dààmú ẹ̀dá o.
Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà.
Àìmásìkò ló dààmú ẹ̀dá o.
Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà.
Àní ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, yóò lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́. Àní ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́ Olúwa, lọ́wọ́.
Kíni gbẹ́dọ́gbẹ́dọ́ fẹ́ fi kí ọ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ gbẹ́? Kí látẹ́gùn fẹ́ fi igi gẹdú ṣe? Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà. Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa ló wà.
Ìrètí mi kò máa ní kọjá mi o.
Ọ̀rọ̀ mi lọ́wọ́ Olúwa
ló wà.
Edis, congratulations. Edis, congratulations.
Hey beautiful, I know what you need. My African queen, take you to Malawi. This song is for you, straight from me. If they don't treat you right, and you need somebody, then you should be with me. I'll be your release. When the sun goes down, you need somebody. When you don't need to compete with nobody, you should know by now that you deserve a gentleman. You deserve a gentleman. You deserve a gentleman. Hey beautiful, you know who it is. My African queen, let me be your king. And this song is for how you make me feel when I'm holding your hand. Oh my baby, you should be with me. I'll be your release. When the sun goes down, you need somebody. When you don't need to compete with nobody, you should know by now that you deserve a gentleman. You deserve a gentleman. You deserve a gentleman.
Thank you for joining us this Saturday morning. Now, on Wednesday, a 7-story building collapsed in Banana Island, Ikoyi. You know, the most expensive piece of real estate in Lagos, or maybe even in Nigeria, who knows? And where one body was recovered from the rubble. I thought we heard that there were no deaths. About 25 were brought out alive.
You remember, if you looked at that video, you realized that while the building was coming down, there were people on top. At the very top, I saw movement at the very top of that, building while it was coming down. I can't even imagine.
Well, we're told that 25 people were rescued from the site, which the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, scanned with a high-precision 3D laser imagery system for life and found no evidence of anyone trapped in the rubble.
Wow.
Well, would we like to believe that? Well, we're being joined this morning by the Chairman, Comprehensive Project Management Services Limited, CPMS, and past President, Association for Consulting Engineering in Nigeria, ACEN, Engineer Bayo Adeola. Good morning, Mr. Adeola. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, sir.
Sir, we find ourselves...
I wish it was under circumstances we're discussing. I said I wish it was...
Can you hear us?
I can hear you, except that it breaks.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that we'll work on that,
okay.
Press to see more. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Adeola, unfortunately, we find ourselves at this point yet again, another collapsed building. The last major one we had also took the life of the developer. And we thought that with all the furore that raised, that these kinds of things we would not see again so soon. In your estimation, what are the reasons why these things keep occurring?
Okay. Like I was saying earlier on that it was, I was wishing that my discussion with you will be under more pleasant circumstances when we will be discussing engineering contribution to development rather than another crisis or emergencies. The question you asked is fundamental. Why does it keep happening? The problem is that there's a systemic inefficiency in the construction, especially high-rise building delivery process. There is a systemic deficiency that cannot be attended to only by response at crisis alone. Indeed, the only permanent solution is what is done between crises. When you have one crisis, you study it in detail, and you respond to it systemically so that the gap between the last incident and the next one is much wider than the previous record. But that's really not what happens. What happens is that there's an intervention that is focused only on that particular collapse. Probes are done and things are done. But in terms of a systemic overhaul of the construction, especially building development process, really not much has been said to have been done in the past several years. And I'm talking about tens of years.
Wow.
The design process, the approval process, the construction process, the quality of the contractor, all the systemic things that have led to previous collapses are still present largely. And therefore, I think that we know where the problem is. The solution is a systemic attack on it by the totality of the stakeholder in that space. And that systemic attack on it might be triggered by a collapse like this, but it is the work that you do between now and how you are able to push away the next collapse as far as possible. Collapses will happen, but not in the frequency that they happen here, no.
Well, Engineer Adeola, when you talked about system, it was part of what we also began to talk about, saying if the systems are in place to do the proper things, we will not have buildings collapsing, we will not have infrastructure decay, we will not even have, excuse me, the kind of abductions we had in about 9 years ago that saw to several others, that followed it, both from the previous government and this one. So when you talk about systems collapse or system inefficiency or deficiency, you've mentioned, you've spaded them. Can you discuss the systems with us here this morning? from what to what is what's supposed to happen in the building construction process? And where do we usually have the major weakness in the link?
Weak link.
I'll attempt to do it. Okay, you want to do a development, high-rise building, low-rise buildings, housing, whatever. There is the owner, whether it's a developer, whether it's an individual, whether it's an entity, he seeks the services of professionals. And there is a group of professionals that are there. The architect, the structural engineer, electrical, mechanical engineers, quantity surveyors, he seeks their services and they provide designs for him. These designs, architecture, structures, electrical, mechanical, are prepared. The competence with which these designs are prepared is the bedrock of future execution of it. If the designs have gaps, they're incompetent or they're inaccurate, then you have a problem in your hand. Once those designs are done by competent professionals, they are forwarded to the approval agencies, which is government, it's physical plan. And they check the layout. Are you putting the right things in the right place? They check the architecture. Do you meet the conditions for them? They check the structures. They didn't used to check the electrical and mechanical, but maybe they do now. They check the drawings and they give you approval on many layers. The planning, the planning requirements have been met, the architectural requirements have been met, the structural requirements have been met, and the engineering like fire and all the other things have been met. And when those things are considered to have been met by the approving authority, you get a planning approval. Then you go on and appoint a contractor to build it. The contractor is an assembly of different specialties. There's a core one who does the structural things, and it's the structural things that collapse. So in this process, the structural elements are key, and the contractor is expected to have competence in the construction of them. The consequences of the electrical will be fire, will be electrical shocks, will be other things. The consequences of the mechanical will be fire safety, will be the lifts and the water supplied and all the distribution. So all the different engineering elements have impacts on the building. But the one that causes collapse is the structural element, which consists of the foundation and the superstructure. And the contractor is supposed to have competencies in executing all of these. It works with subcontractors who are specialists in the electrical, mechanical, and the different areas. While that construction is going on, the consultants are supposed to provide supervision. Hopefully, at the end of most projects, you will have delivered a safe and sound building that can be used and that will not constitute risks to people. Those are really the elements, the basic blocks, building blocks that you go through in putting a building up.
Mr. Adiola, are you saying that...
Yes.
Mr. Adiola, are you saying that in cases of these high-rise collapses, that you're actually calling out the structural engineers as being responsible?
Let me put it very clearly.
Okay.
if a building collapses, there is a structural engineering failure somewhere. A building will not collapse because of architecture. A building will not collapse because the setback is adequate or not adequate. A building will not collapse because the electrical wiring has not been properly done. A building will collapse because either the foundation or any of the structural elements has failed. That is the primary cause of collapse. There are circumstances that can lead to that, but the primary cause of collapse of any building is a foundation or a structural failure in that building.
Okay.
And it can be shared by the structural engineer and the builder, the contractor.
Okay.
Between them, the immediate cause of collapse has to be traced to those specific focus areas. Did the structural engineer do anything wrong? Or did the contractor not comply strictly with the structural design and specifications? For whatever reasons, what circumstances that can cause this to happen might include quality of materials, imported steel, cement, but those are secondary things. The primary thing is that poor materials should have been detected and not be used.
Okay.
And that is the contractor and under the supervision and approval of the structural engineers. When the structural engineer is either not present, we assume that the design is competent. If design is incompetent and it's not detected, then there is a risk. We are carrying the risk right through the project.
Mr. Diala,
if the design, yes, please.
Does it happen, because earlier you said that all the designs are sent in to obtain approvals from government. Does it happen that the contractor or the engineers deviate from the approval which has been received from government?
Well, we are now getting into the systemic inefficiencies. The first thing is the competency or responsibility to saying somebody didn't inspect it. No. It must take responsibility for its design, and its design must be competent, whether somebody has inspected it or not. And therefore, it must be a competent professional engineer, and must have requisite experience, and he must be able to do it competently. Now, the approval is a check, and you cannot say because the approving person didn't detect it, it's okay. However, the approval should be a second check to make sure it's better. At that level of government approval, it has the second level of inefficiency. The competence of the approving person or persons, the experience of the approving person or persons, and all the other circumstances that can surround the approving person or persons. So the structural engineer can be incompetent, the system can be inefficient, the drawings can be wrong, can be incompetent, negligence. And then when these drawings get to the contractor is supposed to have enough capacity to check at a primary level that there are no obvious gaps. The contractor is not expected to redesign the building, again, because that would be like trying to design the building twice. But it's expected to be able to look through the design and ensure that there are no obvious mistakes. His experience will help him to do that. He's flipping through the drawings. Again, if he doesn't have a competent building section that can take drawings and look at them, he receives drawings, he trusts them 100%, he uses them, then the third check on the delivery system is absent. So when we say that it should be a systemic improvement, we're saying that we must make sure that the design is competently done, not just checking it, but because it needs to be done properly, because that is the responsibility of structural engineer. The check must also be competent. So when somebody has signed off, that confidence in the design should improve significantly. And if you're giving it to a good contractor, you are also relying on the fact that it's a third check, no matter how simple that third check is. That is the design phase. We then go to the construction phase, which is now 95% in the hands of the contractor. Because when the design is competently done, there are things that the contractor has responsibility for. For instance, we have form works, or what sometimes we call force work, the structure on which the rough design materials are placed. If the support structure, which is not going to be there when you're done, if the support structure has weakness, a building can fail while it is still wet because we haven't done a good scaffold, because we haven't done a good formwork, because we haven't put a proper on the guides. Sometimes before it's used for remote, we actually in the contractor's purview. While the consultants go around to inspect and make comments for its improvement, again, just like I said about the consultant, that he has a primary responsibility to design a safe building. The contractor has a primary responsibility to prepare a safe formwork. And therefore, there must be a standard to which those formwork must comply. And if it fails, then it is a failure of contracting. Then we go to the next layer of the materials that he puts on it, the workmanship, all the details that he puts there. We go to that layer, and all the quality, that the cement is good quality, that the reinforcement is good quality, the contractor is supposed to check all of this. There are stipulated tests that we should go through. The consultants should monitor them and certify them and keep record of them, but the primary responsibility is that of the contractor. Always the primary responsibility is that of the doer. The check is a safety factor. I'll pause there.
Mr. Adiola, in the case of high rises, how often does the government go to visit the site to ensure that the approvals given are being adhered to?
Okay. I will repeat myself. The responsibility for the safe construction of the site is that of the structural engineer and the contractor. Those are the people who have the primary responsibility. Government responsibility is an oversight responsibility. It's an oversight responsibility. They go there and they observe evidence. Does it look? Does it feel? But the person who looks at the reinforcement that has been laid, the concrete that has been prepared, the mix that has been done, the prop that is there, in detail are the contractors and the structural engineers.
Yeah, but how often does government go?
Well, they don't have an obligation to come. Maybe that's why I'm not answering that question.
Okay.
In the construction delivery process, they come to experience substantial compliance rather than construction process.
Okay.
But so in that light now, who should be answering questions? Because information available says that two major bodies have been, of course, so many people have been speaking, but specifically the Lagos state government has said that they're going to probe. I mean, we hear this every time there is a collapse. And then we also understand that insurance brokers are saying that the building collapse is due to the negligence of contractors. So in all of these that you have heard, who should be answering what questions? I'm asking that question against the background of the question Alero just asked. concerning the monitoring. At some point, the contractor was negligent, but at some point, someone should be asking questions as to whether or not the process is being followed duly.
Well, I will say that anytime a building collapses, we should first of all talk to the structural engineer and the contractor. It is the structural engineer and the contractor that are the core of the building collapse. If a plane falls from the air, we say what happened to the pilot. We don't have to say what happened to the air hostess or what happened to NAA or what happened to the airline regulation agents. We will, because they are secondary factor. But the primary factor is, was the plane maintained? Was the plane fit to fly? And was the pilot competent to fly? Those are the questions we will ask. In this particular case, we'll say, was the design done competently? Was the construction done competently? If the design is done competently and the construction is done competently, there should be no collapse unless there is a force majeure, there's a bomb, or there's something that you didn't see coming. However, if the design is done competently and the construction is done competently, there will be no failure. And the two agencies responding for those two are the structural engineers and the contractor. Sometimes the structural engineer is not employed, is not paid, it's not there. Those are external circumstances. Those should not happen. And there should be something in the system that doesn't allow a building to be built if it hasn't been properly designed, or the structural engineer is incompetent, or the contractor is incompetent. Those are the systemic ones, because the real immediate cause of failure is structural.
Now, Mr. Diola, what about the surrounding buildings? Is there any way that this collapse could have affected their integrity?
If I didn't hear that properly, you're saying that can a collapse affect the surrounding building?
Yes.
Yes. Basically, from an engineering perspective, we will say, what forces will the surrounding buildings be subjected to by virtue of this collapse? Because it's from these forces that they will have impact on them. One is the vibration. Yeah. There will be a huge amount of vibration. That's about the major source of impact on neighboring buildings, short of the building actually falling on it, the rubble directly falling on it. It's generally a vibration impact. At 6-7 stories, and given the location of this particular one, it is only those buildings that are within the construction space that I would imagine that they would have any potential impact. The others are fine enough that the impact should be immediate. A glass might crack, your table might shake, and things like that. Yes, it can. If it's immediately next to you, yes, it can. But in this particular case, my guess is that it's only those buildings within the immediate vicinity of the collapse that should be checked. Fortunately, they haven't reached the elements that break immediately, like windows, curtain wallings, and little things like that. They haven't reached that. But yeah, they should be checked.
Well, incidentally, to the best of my knowledge, the Lagos State government has sent out some equipment to test the integrity of some of the surrounding buildings. Let's just hope that that comes to a head. But so, Engineer Adiola, now we know the Lagos State government has said that there's going to be some probing, as we have heard before. Are you optimistic that this one is going to make any significant impact to ensure this doesn't happen again in a long time? Please add that to the responsibility that the bodies of engineering practitioners have in this case.
Well, a probe is a post-mortem of a specific case. What I said at the beginning of this conversation is that we need a systemic improvement. So we should put the probe there and we should put it aside. We should constitute a team to study the whole complete chain of construction delivery, draw attention to areas where improvements are needed. At a society level, how are young structural engineers getting their training? How many consultancy firms are there to be able to provide good, comprehensive training? How much opportunity is there? Therefore, the consultants that we are releasing into the society, how well have we trained them? What are the opportunities to train them? And how is it being done? We should go there. We should say the design process, how mandatory is it that only competent consulting firms are being used and they are being held to account for responsibilities like this? There are provisions that they must supervise these buildings. In a few cases, we found that developers have bypassed them, have ignored them, and have just gone on, and we have not been able to detect it until there's a collapse. Then we have people who are approving them, even though there is an oversight function, who don't have the necessary experience or competencies or the time on all the things that they need to do their job. Then we have the contractors who don't have the equipment, don't have the personnel, don't have everything. So we have a systemic thing to do beyond probing this particular failure. We do need to probe every failure, because from every failure, there are lessons learned. But there's a systemic inefficiency in the delivery process that is turning out frequent collapse. Like I said before, collapse will happen from time to time, but they should be far in between, and they should be minimal human error or things that are totally preventable. Basically, those are the issues. So I want more than a probe. I want a systemic evaluation of the system and a systemic design of improvement, such that at least they are far in between, and the reasons will be force majeure, things that you could not have reasonably anticipated. So I think I want more than a probe. I want a more systemic study of the construction industry to reduce the incidence of.
Apart from that, I'm sure that you would want some heads to roll so that people will begin to take their jobs seriously. Right?
Well, I'm always careful about that. As long as people have not been taking on responsibility for which they're incompetent. If you're not a structural engineer and you claim to be one, you should be punished for it. If you're a structural engineer, you have designed a building and you've been negligent, you should be punished for it. If you are a contractor and you have taken the responsibility beyond your competence, you should be punished for it. It's too easy to say, let's heads roll. In a situation where there are no laws, there cannot be sins. If there's a complete decay in the system, the first thing is to correct the decay and make people align. That would be my general approach to it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adeola. I'm sure that you will not blame those who have decided that they're going to stay away from high-rise buildings in Lagos for the time being. Mr. Engineer Bayo Adeola, Chairman, Comprehensive Project Management Services Limited, CPMS, and also past President, Association for Consulting Engineering in Nigeria, ACEN. Thank you very much for joining us this Saturday morning to look at this rather concerning incidents of building collapse in Lagos. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.
So you insist on doing what you want to do. Say or Tinue, Daddy Monlo.
Daddy, I'm going to the city.
You children of nowadays, you are too much in a hurry. Be patient. Be patient.
Daddy, I've heard what you have to say, but I have to do what is in my heart. Daddy Monlo.
Let me tell you. Daddy,
Sir.
you are on your own.
Woke up one Sunday morning, told my daddy I'm leaving home. Going off to the city tomorrow, even though I don't know where to go. Daddy says, son, don't be a fool, 'cause life in the city is unbelievable. You could get broken, oh, you're just a little boy, and you may never find your way. And I said, I know I could get lost. I know I could get broken. Forgive me, Father, but I gotta take a chance. Oh, I'm already gone, so just pray for me. Badura for me. Pray I find my way. Gori ba mi she. Oh, forgive me, Father, but I gotta take a chance. Oh, I'm already gone, so just pray for me. Badura for me. Pray I find my way. Gori ba mi she. Oh, forgive me, Father, but I gotta take a chance. Oh, I'm already gone, so just pray for me. Hello, Daddy, how you doing? Hope Mama's doing okay. Been 4 years and 11 months now. Hello, it was true what you said to me. The life in the city is unbelievable. Had to struggle just to get by every day, and I could barely find my way. Chibok, Momo, Bebo, Deshina. Orikpe, Ayele. Forgive me, Father, but I gotta take a chance. Oh, I'm already gone, so just pray for me. Badura for me. Gori ba mi she. Oh, forgive me, Father, but I gotta take a chance. Oh, I'm already gone, so just pray for me. Gori ba do la 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 la, oh, la la, oh. Everybody, oh, oh, pray for me. Badura, yes, oh, I'm already gone. Pray for me.
Well, do we really need prayers to ensure that we don't have the kind of flooding we had? Was it 2 years ago? Or we have to do something?
Probably.
We have to do something. Prayer doesn't work on its own.
Well, we have to go and do some sacrifice and all that. Because,
No, I'm not sure that NIMET will agree with you, because earlier, I mean, was it 2, 3, 4 months ago, they released the 2023 seasonal climate prediction with a forecast of early onset of rain across the country. And guess what?
which has started.
It has started. So
I mean,
that prediction,
spot on.
That prediction is already active. Now we know. So, NIMET also said the annual rainfall amount was expected to range from 420 mm in the northern region to 3,253 in the coastal areas.
That sounds like a lot of rain.
Exactly. So the prediction also shows that the earliest rains will likely occur on or around the 2nd of March 2023, which was my birthday, in the coastal zones of South states of Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, and Rivers. If you had that experience, please let us know via our Twitter handle. But is that all that we're going to have? Is there more? We heard a particular year, we were told that, look, we're going to have so much rain, it's unprecedented. Is that going to happen again this year? Let's ask Professor Mansour Matazu, who is Director General of NIMET. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof.
Thank you. And good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning. So, how bad are we going to have it this year, or how good are we going to have it this year?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you rightly mentioned earlier, that we have released the forecast for this growing season in January, well, early enough so that we give enough lead time to Nigerians, including relevant government MDAs, to put this information into planning and provide enough early warning for early actions. This we did in January, which was unveiled by our Supervising Minister, Senator Hadi Sirika, in which we summarized the forecast of having early onset, which has come to stay, true to our saying, with pockets of extreme events in the southwest and some southern states. And for the north central and extreme northern countries, states of the country will have their own onset between this April, May to some parts of June. And of course for Yobe and Borno State by first week of July. This I can say, if you are to compare between what we've had in 2022, was a very extreme year, according to climatic scientists globally, especially based on WMO definition. We've had triple dip La Nina, which had occurred last 3 years consecutively. That is the cold phase of the Pacific Ocean, which influences certain prevailing extreme events, especially in this part of the world. But this phase has now metamorphosed into neutral state, and we are also seeing by July to August, we're going to have an El Nino. So the summary is that this 2023, in terms of extreme events, magnitude of rainfall, and other also deviation from anomaly, which you consider as anomalies, will not going to be as extreme as 2022. But even in a normal year, which we have mentioned in our forecast, that even in a normal year, we have periods that we have concentration of rainfall activities, that is between July to September in most parts of the country. And this period is associated with a high-intensity storm, and which will now also induce riverine as well as flash flood in most urban areas. And of course, also as part and a component of the forecast, that we will experience dry spell. And this dry spell is a period of, it's just like a hunger in between two meals. So between the onset and cessation, we have pockets of dry spell that will last between 2 to 4 weeks, in some rare cases about 6 weeks. And this is very injurious, especially to agriculture, because that comes after the planting period. So generally speaking, last year, 2022, was a very extreme year with the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs with World Bank and NEMA also conducted a survey, and the colossal damage in form of infrastructure and damage to property, including farmlands. The cost stand at about 4.6 billion US dollar, and that is very huge even on the GDP. So we don't expect such magnitude for this year, and all the coordinating MDAs in the value chain, which we now provide our service to, they have been well informed. Just last 2 days, we've had a workshop with the Nigerian Emergency Management Agency, and we're also planning to do a downscale of the forecast in most of the states between now and the real onset, especially in the northern states. And by next week, we're going to start the downscaling in many of the of the southern states with Nigerian Emergency Management Agency. But I can see we've had the information well early enough, and also we've provided the advisories in all the socio-economic sectors of this country, be it agriculture, water resources, health,
Prof, very quickly, if you don't mind me butting in.
All the three forms of transportation,
my apologies for butting in,
construction and building.
Just 1 second. My sincere apologies for butting in.
Please.
Now, you made it clear that we've received this in a good enough time. We have good time to plan for whatever. From the experiences that we've had, especially in the 2022 you are mentioning, and 10 years before that time, what are the things, even though we're not going to have the flooding, as you say, in the magnitude with which we had it last year, what are the things that we must do or we left undone last year that brought us to where we are, to the point that we are discussing this as we are now? The challenge of food scarcity that resulted from the occurrence of last year is still very fresh in the mind. And just as you said, with such colossal damage worth $4-point-something billion, many people will be very skeptical of investing in agriculture when they are not sure whether or not flooding is going to take over all of their stuff. Private sector invests, and the government is supposed to do some things that they do not do, which destroys these investments. What are the things we must do so that we do not have the impact of the magnitude, irrespective of whether or not the rains are as heavy as it was last year, on the farming and all of that?
Okay, thank you very much for that. I can say, forecast information is advisory, and then no matter how early, no matter how precise such forecast prediction product services are, if there is no response, especially such response should come from the last mile. And what we consider as the last mile are the communities in the various local government and districts and clans of this country. So I think from our last year's and previous year's experience was coordination used to be a challenge, and such coordination, especially between the center here, which we provide the service, and also the state and local government levels. You will agree with me, you need to have an entry point for you to cascade certain information, especially state-specific. We've had an excellent working coordination at the federal level, and also we've approached all the state government. We have made several presentations at Nigerian Governors Forum, whereby we emphasize that we need to go further after providing the national forecast with detailed information in the various 774 local government areas, to be able to cascade and do such prediction to be at state-specific levels. And we were able to do that in many states. We've signed an MOU with Federal Ministry of Agriculture. But forecast information is advisory, and if you do not heed to such advisories, especially in good time, you tend to have such damages. But the one thing I want to make clear is that even in the most advanced economy, especially in this era of climate change, we do experience such damages, we do experience such devastation and loss of valuable infrastructure during such extreme events. But I can say, I will give one example. The Central Bank of Nigeria heeded to our advisory in 2022, and that saved them a loss of about 120 billion naira, which will have been drained away due to the flood, especially in the northern states. So that is a typical example how heeding to such advisories, not only by relevant MDS, but including also individuals. We need to take our actions into our hands, and we're able also to do this and make all the information to be user-friendly. If you allow me, I can showcase some of these focus products on the screen, whereby we're able to translate it into three major languages, and including Pidgin. And of course, also we came up with an app that is at no cost, free, that people can access and you get information from 774 local government areas, including cropping calendar for the agricultural population. But how are such information being get to the community level, and also respond by the community also? Such response are very critical. But I can tell you there was a presidential directive which emphasized on more effective coordination among key players, and also for the public to be to take actions in their hands. People should avoid building in floodplain areas, and also city planners should be able to demarcate such areas. And even in the agricultural community, people and also organizations like extension officers also should really cascade such information after taking our focus product at community level, and of course also guide this, especially the rural farmers, because they are the ones that feed the nation. And simple uptake of our information will guarantee more than 30% of increase in yield by adopting the climate smart advisories that we are providing. So I can say effective coordination will really see a significant improvement, and we have got all the frameworks, and we've started early this year, and many state government approach us. So based on the MOU with Federal Ministry of Agriculture, we've done this downscaling in most of the southern states. But I can say if we get the buy-in of the state governors to really integrate this as part of their annual activities, that will really help. We'll come up with a more refined state-specific focus information with specific advisories on all the major agricultural practices, including also other relevant sectors of the economy. Challenge basically is vertical coordination, and of course also taking responsibility by the citizens who are the direct consumers of this focus product. But we have done our possible bits, and we've been categorized even at the WMO as the best in Africa, med service in Africa. Our Honorable Minister Hadi Sirika was invited last month to attend the Executive Council of WMO and showcase these good practices. I think, and we are even assisting other African countries in providing some of these advisories, like for Liberia and Sierra Leone, we provide their daily focus from Nigeria, based on the voluntary country partnership of WMO. I can say we have all the information, we have the advisories, and what remains is the uptake.
Prof, lately, NIMET has come out early in the year and given these advisories. How much impact do you think those advisories are having on states? Because in spite of the advisories, every year we have devastation of large proportions in various states.
Say again, please.
I said, in spite of the fact that every year, lately, NIMET has come out and given this advisory early enough, how much impact do you think it's having on the states? Because we still have seen a large amount of devastation when the rains come.
Okay, thank you very much. I can say during the release of our forecast, the public presentation, we normally invite all the state major actors in the state, in all the 36 states, plus FCT, and we invite a minimum of 10, 15 major stakeholders. I'll give example. On each state, we invite Ministry of Agriculture, Water Resources, Environment, SEMA, Water Board, including also the excellencies, the governors, who some send representatives. And in this, we also invited some of the last mile community users so that for them to now give testimony. So we've had session of testimonial from all the major eco-climatic zones, and the farmers and also the users confers getting improvement in yield and significant reduction in risks of loss of crop due to extreme weather event by following and especially heeding to our advisories. And I can say fairly we've had significant improvements even at the state level in terms of integrating our focus information into planning, but this still leaves some window of improvement so that to complete integration of the focus information, because weather is live and life is weather, so we need to uptake this information and integrate it into the state action plans. And with this, we will see significant improvement. So the impact I can say, in our case, we've been doing this business for quite some decades, and we are seeing significant improvements based on the approach and the requests we've been getting from different users across the country of our tailored products. So, but that still leaves room for improvements. I can say the devastation in terms of extreme weather event is not only peculiar to Nigeria, especially in this era of climate change. And NIMET has done a lot of analysis which has confirmed evidence, localized evidence of climate change. And with this, we are seeing significant increase in extreme events, okay, and with such a loss of life and property. But I can say we are really making progress as a country, but there are windows of improvement.
Exactly.
Which will now see reduction
exactly
in some of
where
these lives.
I would love to follow up that question on, Prof. The windows for improvement.
Yes, please.
Now, there was something that you said when you addressed Nigerians and when the DG of NEMA addressed Nigerians on behalf of all of your collaborative efforts, that there is a high risk of coastal flooding due to the expected rise in sea level and tidal surge that may negatively impact agriculture. This was done just 2 days back. This address was just 2 days back, and of course you were also at that meeting. The question that I'd love to ask now is, what is a timeline that you would give governors and all relevant collaborative organizations that they need to get this done before, so that the impact can be mitigated? The whole idea of the SCP is preparedness to mitigate devastating effects. What is a timeline you would recommend, based on the advice, that these certain things need to be done by certain regions or governors and all of that in order to mitigate significantly the impact that is ahead?
Okay, thank you very much for that follow-up question. I attended the release of the DRM strategy documents for the country. I can say, true to the release by NEMA, that we have been experiencing increase in the sea level rise due to global warming and subsequent melting of ice in the polar and subpolar regions, and this is now causing swelling of the global ocean, including the North and South Atlantic Ocean also in Africa. So this coupled with also increasing rainfall activities upstream will now create more inundation, especially for coastal states. So the information was released very early, excuse me, and I can see the timeline for especially states in the south is immediately, because we are very open. NEMA, NIMET, NAHISA, we have formed a triangle of major key service providers, especially in the climate services value chain, and the advisories are state specific. We have the flood risk maps developed by NISA. I'm sorry, NISA and NEMA. So, and all these contain state and local government specific information that has details of the focus and the advisories. I'm sorry.
So apologies, well, sorry about that, but you know, it's okay. Now you said the timeline is immediately. What are the obstacles you would say they might have to contend with? I ask this question because it's a transition year for quite a number of governors. And how strong then would you say, irrespective of the transition between one governor and the other, what would you say is would you say that there are strong enough institutions on ground to take on these issues before or even as the governors are finding their seats by maybe under a little over a month from now?
I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, it's okay. We understand.
I can say we've approached the Nigerian Governors Forum, and then they have integrated us as part of the induction program for the new incoming governors. But I can say at state level, ministries of environment, health, water resources, and of course what they call the state emergency management agencies, that is SEM, are responsible for uptaking this information and for carrying on with the state level cascading. and with all this information, we have our own state offices that are also ever ready to collaborate, continue to collaborate with the state actors and provide further advisories. So, and all these, our state offices, we have their own level information on our CSCP document, including their phone numbers, and they can also be approached for further details in getting this cascaded information into use at the state level. So for us at the federal, I can say NEMA, NIMET, and NISA, we have already rolled up a program that will be starting in the next couple of days at most of the state government level. But what we are asking is, especially for the incoming governors, to please open their arms and also integrate our activities into their state action and community development plans. And with this, we intend to have improvements in yield, reduction in extreme events, and also reduction in loss of livelihoods that we have seen happen severally over these years. And of course, also, part of this will involve some sensitization campaigns at the state levels, whereby we use local dialect and also some community leaders, including agriculture extension officers and the climate change agents, to be able to take down the information at the community level. So for us, we are ever ready for partnership, and it's at no cost to any state governments. And such information platform will also provide what we call a feedback mechanism for NIMET especially. And this mechanism is meant to be able to give us details of the utilization and how precise the focus was, and in what form and format and at what frequency the users require such information. And it will help us really to improve significantly. But I can say in terms of the precision, our focus has proved to be more than 95% accurate, and that is very high, even according to the Plemo index, and so is a very vital documents is a very vital information that needs to be integrated. So we appeal especially to all the state governments to please continue to collaborate with us and be able to see how we can reduce, in this era of climate change, and weather is natural phenomena and climate, so you cannot stop certain events happening, especially in the era of climate change, but we can significantly reduce. It has been established that by uptaking or utilizing 1 naira to provide early warning, you're going to be saving about 8 naira, which will have come in form of damages to property, infrastructure, and of course life, which you cannot even, the value of life cannot be quantified. And also Nigeria is also aligning to the United Nations mission of getting all citizens having access to early warning in the next 5 years, according to United Nations General Assembly. So part of this information we are providing in form of advisories, in form of mitigative and adaptive actions, are all taking cue to this global mission statement by the United Nations. But we require very much early action, which will match the early warning we've been providing in this country. I can say we will be following up with updates in 3 days and 7 days, and also on a monthly basis, even if there is any modification with regards to the prevailing weather conditions.
We certainly look forward to that, Prof, because at the end of the day, what matters is the information is given for prevention. And you also aced it by saying that the governors that are coming in should have it at the back of their minds that they're not going to have any interregnum. They just, once they get into the office, they start to work immediately because the flooding may not give notice to anyone. We have to thank you very much this morning for being with us. Professor Mansuru Matazu is Director General of NIMET, joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you again, Prof, for your time this morning.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigerians.
Yes, good morning. So we're back right after now to take on another conversation. Please stay with us.
Where is Glory?
Excuse me, ma'am. Are they here?
No, don't go village. Tell all our customers.
Everybody pay attention. See, now Globe dedicated 10x. Now they dash me 10 times the credits when I load. Or even summer me double data join.
Yeah. Wait, so with 1.5 when they give all of us, you they enjoy up to 15,000 naira credit and data.
And I say I never finish you. See, you say we enjoy if we not join Globe dedicated 10x. When you get 1,000 naira welcome credit. You just carry your phone, dial *777#. Finish.
Correct. Gulo, you don't win. You don't do.
Una see they here. Hello. He said, now Globe they fine. Now Globe they go.
Enjoy 10 times the value of your recharge on Globe Berekete 10X. You also get 1,000 naira for calls and data, and double data bonus on your subscription.
Every healthy family needs the right amount of energy to start their day, but sourcing for breakfast with a splendid blend of nutritious multigrains, big wahala. With the new Kellogg's Gold Grain cereal, you don't have to go through all of that. So now, your mornings can look like this.
Go, 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 Gold Grains. Love the goodness of its multigrains. Grain sets go! With protein and creamy tasty Kellogg's Gold Grains.
Grain sets go! With vitamins and minerals in Kellogg's Gold Grains.
Grain sets go! So go, 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 Gold Grains. Love the goodness of its multigrain. Grain sets go!
Kellogg's Gold Grains is a breakfast cereal fortified with vitamins and minerals from the goodness of multigrains like maize, guinea corn, rice, and soya. Kellogg's Gold Grains.
Grain sets go!
Also available in banana flavor.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Bring it on, bring it on. Bring it on. Life know the sweet though, hey. If some people know they hate too, so use the number 6 so and calculate. You go see the ratio. The beef self na meat though, whether na asu they relate to. So bring your own crayfish, oh, we go mix, so, oh, nah. Oh, share na them talk say, we no go blow. Oh, share them they see us now, we don't glow. Take a look at me now, take a look
Just as long as you're chasing money, do what's right, never give up on it. Bring it on, bring it on. Are you ready? No matter how you try, don't you ever fall. Keep your head up high and standing tall. Bring it on, bring it on. Are you ready? No matter how you try, don't you ever fall. Keep your head up high and standing tall. And rising, rising, rising. Keep it high, rising, rising. Bring it on.
This life ain't no easy. So much hustling and puzzling. Everyone is struggling. So make you know they believe, say. Since everyone is chasing, you're never gonna make it. Never say no, never give up. Keep your head up, standing tall. And for sure, you go turn it up, turn down for what? Shane and them talk say, we no go blow. Share them to see us now, we don't glow. Take a look at me now, take a look at me now. We're running things in this town, can't you see?
I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you do. Just as long as you're chasing money, do what's right, never give up on it. Bring it on, bring it on. Are you ready? No matter how you try, don't you ever fall. Keep your head up high and standing tall. Bring it on, bring it on. Are you ready? No matter how you try, don't you ever fall. Keep your head up high and standing tall. And rising, rising, rising. Keep it high, rising, rising. I don't care who you are, where you're from, or what you do. Just as long as you're chasing money, do what's right, never give up on it. Bring it on, bring it on. Are you ready? No matter how you try.
Well, that's our next conversation, really. But just to let you know that in case you are not aware, there are certain elections going on today. Just so you know, supplementary.
I'm sure some people are going to say, INEC again. INEC again.
You know, so Kebbi, Adamawa, Rivers, I think a number of other states are having supplementary elections today. So just so you know. And by the way, if you need to follow up on exactly the things that are going on, please go to Channels TV. At Channels TV on Twitter, you have blow-by-blow account of how these things are going in various parts of Nigeria, including Oyo State, you know, close to us here.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
The House of Rep polls will be held in a total of 31 constituencies across 15 states: Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bayelsa, Ebonyi, Edo, Imo, Jigawa, Kano, Kebbi, Kogi, Oyo, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, and Zamfara. That's a lot of states.
That is a lot of states. That definitely is a lot of states.
Whoa. Anyway, all that is going on, but because we're all not really involved, many of us are not even aware. But well, INEC is still at work.
Yeah, just so you know.
Yes. So, it's been 9 years since about 276 girls were spirited into the night from their dormitories in a place called Chibok in Nigeria. 96 of them remain in captivity. And since then, thousands more children have been subjected to grave violations of their rights. But like somebody will say, who told girls that they had rights anyway? UNICEF says it welcomes the government of Nigeria's signing of the UNICEF-supported handover protocol and its commitment to invest 144.8 billion naira towards the Safe Schools financing plan in 2022 and stands ready to support the government in its implementation to ensure that all children encountered in the course of armed conflict in Nigeria or released from armed groups are quickly reunited with their families and benefit from reintegration programs. Thank you very much, UNICEF. We have with us this morning to receive the thanks and also tell us more about what is going on. We have Mr. Samuel Cisse, UNICEF Child Protection Manager, Maiduguri, Officer in Charge, UNICEF Maiduguri. Good morning, Mr. Cisse.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We understand that 96 of those girls who were spirited away in the night are still in captivity. And because of that, many parents of the girl child have refused to send their girl children to school in some parts of northern Nigeria. Is there anything UNICEF is doing towards alleviating their fears and letting them know that it's okay for the girl child to go to school?
I'm sorry, there was a hitch. Can you just repeat the question?
Okay. I said that the Chibok incident led to many parents deciding that their girl child would not go to school. Is there anything that UNICEF is doing? You are in Maiduguri, in the thick of it. Is there anything that UNICEF is doing to alleviate the fears of these parents, to make them understand that it's okay for the girl child to go to school and the danger is not as bad as it would seem?
Definitely. Wherever UNICEF works, UNICEF supports the efforts of the government in making sure that the rights of children are protected, including girls. It is the right of children to go to school and that of girls as well. We all are aware what happened 9 years ago, but UNICEF has been working with the government, as you rightly put it, in the Safe School Declaration, trying to make sure that efforts are being made to protect environments where children go to get education. These efforts have been made at federal level and at state level. Investments have been made in terms of protecting structures, physical structures where children go to school. Investments have been made in trying to make sure that the government put in more money, protecting environments where children go to school. Investments have been made in supporting teachers, making sure that they are aware how to protect children in school. Investments have been made in terms of also working with communities to raise awareness so that wherever children are in school, they should be protected.
Tell us about the Safe School Initiative.
Yes, so basically, Nigeria signed this declaration a few years ago.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Go ahead. We can hear you, Mr. Cisse.
Oh dear. Well, most certainly we need to get that fixed because we don't know why he's unable to hear us. Can you hear us now?
Sorry, there was another itch, but I'm back.
Okay. Just keep going.
Yes. So in terms of the Safe School Declaration, like I said, Nigeria signed this initiative a few years ago, and the government has shown commitment in terms of supporting the effort. One, the Safe School Declaration ensures that wherever children go to school, it is protected and children can access learning from that location. So like I was saying, the investments are being made in protecting the environments where children go to school, the physical structure and other things. Then in situations where it is very risky for children to go to school, like you are saying, we are in Maiduguri in the northeast, there are a lot of challenges in some communities. Children are moved from those insecure locations and moved to secure locations where they can continue to go to school. Those that have been displaced and sent to IDP camps, they are being provided with support in those camps, and communities are being supported to raise awareness in terms of what kind of support to give, and of course in terms of also providing support even to the teachers to make sure that if there is an attack, what should be done to protect children. So those are just part of the declaration.
You are in Maiduguri yourself, and it's been 9 years. Has there been any change in the attitude of parents towards letting their children go to school? Initially, we understand perfectly that they would be quite apprehensive, but it's been 9 years. So are they beginning to allow their children back to school now?
Definitely. Like I said, it is part of UNICEF efforts to raise awareness of those communities and to give them back reassured hopes with the Ministry of Education. UNICEF support the effort of the Ministry of Education to make sure that wherever these children are allowed to go to school, they are safe. Can it be in terms of physical protection? Can it be in terms of providing security along those locations? Like I also told you in IDP camps when we had them, children also were provided support. And so, there has been a difference now. Parents are having confidence. Children are going to school, including girls.
Can you give us an idea of how many children have been abducted in Nigeria in the last, since Chibok?
That's interesting. We do what we call the monitoring and reporting mechanism, wherein we monitor abductions, be they related to the conflict, or you have others that are not related to the conflict. But when you come to those that are related to the conflict, you have thousands of children that have been abducted in different locations. But that's why, as you have seen, what UNICEF is doing, when these children are released, our effort is to make sure that first we trace their families, then provide them reintegration support in their communities of return. So if you see that a lot of children that were abducted, that were released, also now the mass exit that is happening here in the Northeast, we have 3 camps where they are. We are now waiting to return these children back to their families. So abduction is one of the strategy that the armed groups are using, to make children join them. They need strength, they need support, they need children to be able to do all of these things for them. So that's why they target children wherever they attack in those communities.
Well, very interesting that you put it that way, Mr. Sese, because, I mean, there was some conversation we heard in the early years of this whole abduction, saga, was that it's more difficult to fight a philosophical war such as is being pursued when they said Boko Haram, which means education is sin and all of that. So in what way would you say over the past 9 years or so, we've been able to degrade that philosophy? In what would you say we have been able to do anything as a state, as a country, or even at the various subnational levels? Would you say we've been able to degrade that philosophy of impoverishing education and actually enriching it in those communities?
Definitely, because like you rightly said, Boko Haram means discouraging children to go to school. Going to school is haram, that's what they were saying. But like I said, through the Ministry of Education, UNICEF has supported the government to make sure, first in terms of raising awareness, in terms of engaging communities at different levels.
My apologies, Mr. Sese. My apologies. You get to that example. The reason I asked that question is, we know what UNICEF is doing, but at the end of the day, UNICEF cannot really do anything on its own. There has to be that collaboration, there has to be that partnership, there has to be something done and seem to be done, and not just an aspiration of that. That's the basis of the question. Would you say indeed that we have a concerted direction as a country and as states at the individual levels to ensure that we reverse the trend that started this Boko Haram thing?
Yes, definitely. Like I said, I think the government is making efforts at different levels, national and state level, in terms of making sure that this whole thing about Boko Haram preaching out saying school is haram for children is debunked. And like I said, at different levels, engagements are happening at different levels through the government. And these are different ministries working on this work stream. I tell you, we have the Ministry of Local Government, they have the Ministry of Women's Affairs, we have the Ministry of Information. All of them have different engagements in terms of what they do to debunk this whole philosophy of Boko Haram that children should not go to school. So as I was saying, I will give you an example. In the camps that we have, these children that are released, a lot are not going to school, not have never been to school. But once they are in the centers, there's what we call literacy and numeracy classes for them. And I tell you, after 6 months in the camp there, you see them reading and writing, and now they will tell you, no, no, no. No more Boko Haram talking about that going to school is haram, but that it is education is beneficial to them. And you see the effort these children are making to even write their names. They spend time in the center, when the classes are off, on their own, using the books and slates to just spell their names. And you could tell that a lot has been done for us to get to that level. So the government has done a lot. Like I said, the different ministries are really, really working towards this. And UNICEF is supporting this effort.
Okay. Great one there. But how about the communities? Because at the end of the day, I mean, there are some of them who are still looking around for some of their relatives, their friends, their colleagues, the members of the community, almost 100, as you already mentioned to us. How are they receiving that new philosophy, that re-engineering of fostering education, with the memory in their minds that there are still about 100, almost 100 of them still in captivity?
Yes, you are right. It is about continuous engagement. Because at the end of the day, you can do work in the centers, but if you don't do them at community level, then there is a challenge. It is still a situation that people don't want to recall. But like I said, the continuous community engagement at different levels, using the community stakeholders, using community leaders, using even the religious leaders, youth groups and others, and providing tangible support in those communities in terms of be it formal or non-formal education effort that the government is doing. Yes, there is confidence coming back into those communities. It is a challenge, like you said. This war is protracted and it has destroyed a lot of infrastructure. But the effort that is being put in terms of bringing communities back together, I think they are getting into it and they are getting to believe that, yes, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Mr. Sise, how is your engagement with the parents of these children? Because after all said and done, no matter how much a child wants to go to school, if the parents say he or she is not going, full stop, that's it. Many of them were certainly traumatized when Chibok happened. So they would have been a bit circumspect about allowing especially their daughters out of their sight. So obviously you need to engage with them, multiple times to convince them that it's actually safe to allow these girls to go to school. How is that going, that engagement with the parents?
Yeah, so like I said, it is continuous. It is not straightforward. Like you said, parents have this bitter experience. Some of them are still waiting to have back their children. The communities are watching. But then, like I said, belief starts to come back into those communities. Because the engagement, like I said, we start at grassroots level. We have what we call the community networks. Community networks on a daily basis, they are present in those communities, working with those parents. We call what we call case management. You target these parents, try to provide support for them in terms of psychosocial support, in terms of also engaging them in livelihood support, maybe in groups, and then for them to see also the positive part of life. Like those children that are coming back, we also use them as an example to give them hope. That, yes, your child is still away, but we will not stop, we will not relent until the last child is brought back home. And they see these tangible examples, and gradually they are starting to believe, and that's where we are heading.
Mr. Sise, now let's talk about your engagement with the communities, because there's no way that anybody can believe that 276 children were taken away and nobody saw anything, nobody heard. And you don't put children in your pocket. They were transported some one way or another. Some people saw, but have not spoken. So obviously, you are also engaging with the communities. See something, say something, and stuff like that. How is that going?
Yeah, so like I said, you are very right. Number of children, over 200, were abducted in one go. But I just want to also raise your attention, draw attention to this issue of recruitment and use of children and abduction. Hundreds more are being abducted. You see, because like I said, that's the tactics of the armed group. They come, they recruit children because they are easy to manipulate, they are easy to manage, and they use them for different purposes. So we have thousands that are there. In the past 6 years that UNICEF started the reintegration program here, we have reunified over 4,000 children back with their families. And these were released by armed groups. So the 200 plus Chibok children, we drew our international attention, which was good, but then we have a lot of other children that are recruited and used, held there behind rebel lines. So that's the thing. We are continuing to make this effort to negotiate and to make sure that also support the government, support the ministries, to trace these families of the children once they are released to us and then sent back home. Because, when the mother, the father loses a child, you know what it means as a parent. Until you have that child back, you will not rest. And that is how, so it is based on that that motivates us to do this work.
Well, Mr. Sese, I know I'm going to ask you a really rather difficult question, but it needs to be asked. What we have witnessed over the years, the past few years, as this Fourth Republic grows older, is a gradually decreasing trust quotient for anything government. Once it ends with government, federal government, state government, local government, people are generally apprehensive. So I'm wondering how we are able to not just persuade, but sustain the trust of Nigerians who have seen this vulnerability of government and have been enslaved by it, if I can use that term, because you just said now, losing a child. There is a proverb in Western Nigeria, Southwestern Nigeria, that it's better to say the child is dead rather than say the child is lost. That it's unimaginable, just as you said now. So how do we get people in these communities, both the ones that have suffered and the ones that, God forbid, may be vulnerable as well, to trust whatever comes from government?
Yes. Note that armed insurrection is not just peculiar to Nigeria. It is global in different countries, and of course, the responsibility to secure the population of a country rests in the hands of the government. So whatever it is, the government has that responsibility. So that's why UNICEF supports the efforts of this government. Like I said, of course, there may be gaps in terms of the response, but when UNICEF works with government, we look at also building those institutions, those capacities in terms of accountabilities, in terms of report, in terms of response. So a lot goes into it, because like we work, in child protection, we work with the social workers. So our role there is to build a professional child protection workforce, social workforce, that can do case management, that can provide quality services to children, that can do follow-up on their own. And then, of course, the NGOs, the CBOs, they are there also to provide support, but the government takes the lead, and that's what we do. So when we provide response, this is the message that we pass on, and when we also engage with the government, this is the message that we also propagate and try to also support them along that line. And, it's not easy. We've come a long way, but we are getting there.
Thank you for that. But how about the children themselves? One of the things that one would expect, you've said that their enthusiasm is communicable. They want to go to school. They are very excited about it. But then it will be difficult, if not impossible, to take away, to erase from their minds the possibility that anything untoward could happen to them. Is there any way of preparing the children themselves to defend themselves Do you see that happening? I know, I mean, you're likely to talk about, armed resistance and all of those things, but for children, is there any way of protecting themselves, of defending themselves? God forbid that such a thing would happen again.
So like I was saying, when armed groups come to attack, they attack a community. And in these communities have children and adults. Usually the care of the child is under the parent, the adults, The Safe School Declaration, like I said, part of the effort is to support teachers, help to provide this kind of protection for children once they are under their custody in schools, because attacks happen often when children congregate in schools. That's what we have noticed, or in the playground. So that's why you always work with those community networks. We have what we call community networks that support children wherever they go, whether it's for play, whether it's for skills training, whether it's for education, because you cannot leave the child alone by themselves, without the protection of an adult. So that's the mechanism we use. Work with the community to protect their children. That's the best way, community support. So that's why we work with those grassroots groups, those grassroots institutions, youth groups, mothers groups, that can come together and provide what kind of support for children. Tangible, not just security, but tangible support to help promote children go to school. Buy uniforms for them, pay school fees, and monitor their progress in school.
Well, on this issue, we've been speaking largely about children in school. Can we, expand this conversation a little to children wherever they are? In school, out of school, at home, and all of those things. There's that famous Child Rights Act, that some states we understand are yet to actually domesticate. How significant do you think that is, and how much do you think it'll help to protect the rights of children?
Great. I think that is, since I'm here for the past 1.5 years, it is one of the breakthroughs that I've seen, how a lot, except few, that have not domesticated the child rights law. I mean, in the Bay States, we have already done that. And this is an instrument, a legal instrument, that will hold duty bearers to account. That we hold duty bearers to account. So it is like a legal document. It's the Bible when you talk about, when it comes to child rights, what we do for children. These are non-negotiable issues that are in there. The government, it's a must for the government to do this. Yeah. We know it is a challenge depending on the situation of the government, depends on the country, but it is now the implementation. Domestication gone, okay, they have signed it, everybody has signed it. Is that all? No. The implementation. So now what UNICEF is doing now with the government is the dissemination. Doing this document into different local languages and disseminating it at different levels. For the children, parents, caregivers, the government, institutions, there are different responsibilities for different categories of people, and we are working with this. There's a committee for the Bay States, to make sure that this domestication, it's not just about a document, we have this, no. Let us go into the implementation. So first is dissemination, and then implementation along with monitoring.
It's heartwarming that you mention implementation of that law, because what readily comes to mind, having been active for whatever number of years now, this Child Rights Act, it was not a very pleasant thing to hear last year and even the year before of the level of multidimensional poverty that children in Nigeria are subjected to. I'm sure it's something that concerns you as well. What are the things that you think need to be done? First of all, let's understand, because at the end of the day, if the children are poor now, they're only going to grow up poor all the while. So I'm wondering what you think is the missing link that has brought us to the point where we're having such a huge, more than 50% of children in Nigeria are said to be in multidimensional poverty. Of course, you also cited that. That reflects on their parents as well. How do we reverse those figures progressively and futuristically?
Yeah. It is about, providing education for children. Making sure that all children, I will underline the word, all children in Nigeria should be a must. They have to go to school. That is where you have to start. That's the basis. Have these children educated, even up to tertiary level. They are being supported. And I tell you, by the time we get to that level, the issue of this whole thing about poverty, until we do that, because if you go out, you see a lot of children roaming the streets, not having that support, not having that access when it comes to school. You have the others that have that opportunity to go to school. You look at that set, so it is still an issue that has to be tackled. So that's why I'm saying all children, it is a must that all children have to go to school. So now with this child right law, which is like, it makes it obligatory for a child to go to school, I think that's the way forward, to address this long-term issue of poverty and other challenges that comes with that.
But there are some things that will not be, my apologies, Alera. There are some things that will not be taught in school. Certain morals will not be taught in school. Personal discipline will not be taught in school. Character may not be taught in school. Some things are modeled by people. So in a situation where we have parents that are damaged, what can the children learn from them? So it goes back to the question again, how do we reverse this trend, given the realities that even the parents themselves have to contend with?
Yeah, you are right. So when UNICEF works with the government, we don't just focus on the children. We also focus on the parents or caregivers. So we have what we call the parenting programs, the life skills and other things. We have parents, like we are talking about character, which is very important, the upbringing of a child. When we do parenting programs, parents, be they fathers or mothers, uncle, whatever, women, they are brought into these sessions, and then you hold discussions, you hold dialogues in terms of how you bring up children. Communities, they have their way of bringing up children even before our own time, and this was considered as community care for children. One child was not owned by a parent. The community, the child in that community, the community owned that child. All of them provide support to the upbringing of that child. So a child going astray, it is the responsibility of the community. So like I said, it's at different level. The community engagement at the grassroots is very, very important. Once you look at top level, you talk about laws, policies, like now we have the child rights law and the other things, but then also look at the grassroots level. If you mix both and they tend to work well, then we're heading for the right direction.
When you were talking about all the children must go to school, it just crossed my mind that, yeah, there is a law in this country that says that all children of school age must go to school. It's just that some parents decide not to send their children to school, and sometimes they get away with it. I know that at some point, Lagos State was trying to enforce it by picking up children from the streets and all that. But we don't have any details as to how successful that was and how they were able to get those children all back to school. You see them all hawking stuff at street junctions instead of going to school. And that, of course, sometimes is as a result of poverty because those children are the breadwinners. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Samuel Cisse, UNICEF Child Protection Manager and Officer in Charge, UNICEF Maiduguri. Thank you very much for coming to look at the issue of the abduction of children in Nigeria with specific reference to 9 years since the Chibok girls were abducted. Thank you, and we wish you all the best in the work you do, and we appreciate the work that you do in that part of our country. Thank you very much. Sunrise will be back.
Thank you, too. Thanks for having me.
Sunrise will be right back, and this time we're going to be looking at our lifestyle segment. You know that talk about technology and finding the balance? This technology thing, to some of us analog people, it can be quite challenging, but we'll pay attention. So see you in just a moment while we go to school and learn more about technology.
Nigeria on my mind, born in diversity, blessed beyond compare. Ooh, through these 100 years, our struggles and through all our fears. In our unity, peace, our destiny. Here we are, standing tall, we're standing tall, standing tall. Through adversity, we are one, we are 100 years of unity, Nigeria. This land of mine, Nigeria, my mind, I pledge to you my loyalty, my love, my ability. And as we celebrate ourselves, we shall rededicate to serve a new Nigeria, for a better land for all. Here we are, standing tall, through adversities. We are one. Nigeria. On the mountain, shouted in the valley, Nigeria has come a long way. On a journey to a future of brighter and better days. Together we will make it strong and invincible. We are on our way. Oh yeah. One nation, indefeasible. Nigeria is here to stay. We are standing tall as a nation. Standing tall through adversity. We are one. We are 100 years of unity. Nigeria, we will stand. Standing tall through adversity. We are one. We still together. 100 years. One nation. One country. Nigeria, we will stand. Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call obey. To serve our fatherland
Thank you for staying with us. When I was growing up, music, you have to see the musicians play. You have to hear the drums and everything all the time, including production and everything. But today, you hear of one-man band. It's technology.
And he's playing all the equipment.
Everything. And you know, that's not just one. It's just one of the several ways that technology has altered our lives, if I can use the term. You can have a whole library on your phone.
Yeah.
A whole library on your phone, on your tab, on your computer.
You know, when I was in UI, we prided ourselves as having the best university library in Africa. What does that mean now? Your library is in your hand.
So, I mean, clearly technology has affected every aspect of our lives in this 21st century. Transport efficiency, safety, food and healthcare, socialization, productivity, you name it. Of course, the power of the internet has enabled global communities to form and ideas and resources to be shared far more easily than before. You could literally sit down on your phone and in 20, 30 minutes, write a 500-page book. Yes, technology. In 20 minutes, you can write a 500-page book if you want to know how. Come on, let me consult for you. But you know...
Consultant.
But that's one aspect of it. That's the good of it. But then there are those who are old enough to hear and have heard so very frequently the good, the bad, and the ugly. We take technology for granted every day. Even when it's delivering us the best of everything, we just seem to take it for granted, including using it for raising children. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Let's have that conversation this morning with Bolaji Salawe, who is an ICT UI UX expert. He has 15 certifications in the areas of technology and is a certified UI UX wireframing and design specialist. Thanks for joining us this morning.
In other words, he's a computer himself.
So, thank you for joining us, people.
Thank you.
Technology is a good thing, but then too much of everything we hear has its
negative sides,
negatives or cautious sides, if I can use the term.
Absolutely.
In what ways do you think we are taking technology for granted to our own detriment that we may not even be aware of?
Well, the very first thing that I would avert to would be the fact that personalization has been taken out of everything. You know, you're within a household, your mom is in one room, your dad is in another.
Or even in the same living room.
Yeah, even in the same living room. Instead of actually
directly
talking to each other, you text each other, you send little pockets of messages here and there. And the personalization has been actually eliminated.
Social life is
absolutely. You have friends, you may not see them for a week, and you guys communicate at the speed of light. This part of, or this aspect of technology has been battled for so long, but unfortunately, we still have the addiction part of it, where, and I'm sure if I say this, a lot of people are going to
come after you.
No, not come after me. They're going to see eye to eye with me on it. And it resonates with so many people's thoughts and the way they think. You have technology in your hands. You want to do this, it's technology you send to do it. You want to do that, it's technology. Then at your off times, you play a game on your phone, tablet, computer, and you find yourself leaving the more important things and wasting all that time on games, on things that are very trivial and non-important. my grandfather used to tell me, spend more time on more important things and less time on less important things. As simple as that little adage is, a lot of people, they batch it up. They can't really hold that as a principle. And things just carrying down the slope. We've seen people lose their home because they get addicted to things on the technology side, like the game I just mentioned, or other things, betting, porn, just basically a lot, because these things are readily available to you, and there's no checkpoint. Nobody's checking you on them.
So it's a good thing and a bad.
Absolutely.
It could be also a bad thing.
Yes.
Depending on how you deploy it.
That's right. The use and the relating to it makes it either good or bad.
The question, one of the questions that naturally comes to mind is, clearly, there is no removing technology from our lives anymore.
No, definitely. We can't get away from that.
Good. That fact established, it fast tracks your life. But at the same time, from what you have said now, it slows down kills certain other aspects of our lives. The social life that you just mentioned, for instance.
That's right.
What are the caution signs that we have been ignoring in that regard? We know it's our reality, but sometimes, just as you said, it's difficult now to wean ourselves off of the addiction.
Well, addiction, for what it is, it's that not being able to, do things the way you're supposed to do it. It's actually taking over, your decision making, your choices, and, other things like that you use in framing your life. To go back to your question, I personally think what could be done and what we are missing is that aspect of focusing on the right things and leaving the wrong things. When I say that, there are actually ways you can go about trying to relieve yourself of this addiction. Create a time within a day to reflect. Put that thing down. Because as you use technology, it beckons to you to use it more. I think I hit a string there. So it keeps asking you for more and more and more. And then going back to UI and UX. Now, the what UI means is just user interface. And don't mix that up with user experience, which the UI stands for. UX, sorry, stands for. UI is just, you're sitting in front of a device. What you see, the display, where everything is.
The appeal.
The color, the pixels, the way they just come at you is what UI is. That's a user interface. The interface, the way you connect to that device. Now, the user experience has a lot to do with just how it feels once you're using it. The ease of pressing this. Even if you don't know how to use it, you've heard the phrase user-friendly before. User-friendly is just having that thing speak with you, even if you've never used it.
The way you interact with it.
You know exactly where to go when you want to do something. No one has told you. You just sit there and you're thinking in your head, I'd like to do this. Automatically, intuitively, that thing just pops up where you expect it to be. Now, there are certain people who pre-think these things, and those are the people that design the architects, if you may.
Because they want you to stay on it for as long as possible.
Exactly.
So it's designed for that purpose.
Designed for that purpose. The
keeping
ease
you
of
captive,
use.
so to speak.
Exactly.
Now,
because, go ahead.
No, go.
Yeah. See, websites, they want you to be on their website as long as possible. Applications, the people who put it out there, the publishers, they want you to use it as much as possible. Because the longer you stay there, quite frankly, is the more money they make. A lot of people ask me, how do you make money by people just coming to your site? And there's an array of ways to make money.
We'll talk about that. We're not talking about the business right now. We're talking about the impact and effect on people.
On people, okay.
Now, please tell us the impact and vulnerability of users of technology in our lifestyles to mental health. I ask that because sometimes I just go on Twitter and I'm wondering, I read certain threads and I'm wondering, how could people think like this? People who normally wouldn't be able to stand in front of Alero here, for instance, would say all kinds of balderdash to her on social media simply because it's impersonal.
That's right.
How, first of all, talk about that before we go to the mental health part. What kind of restrictions? Because there is what they call cyberbullying now, and it is an offense all over the world already. And all of this is because people see the technology as a place you can do anything you say, say anything you want, and all of that, and you may or may not be caught or apprehended for it. How significant of a challenge do you think that is in our community? We'll come to the mental health part.
Okay, the significant part of that I see is internet really has no regulations. You know, you can't regulate it. If there was a time in the United States, they were wondering how could we tax businesses on the internet. They couldn't find a way. How do you find a way to tax someone that I'm over here in Nigeria and I'm selling to somebody in the United States or in England, India, anywhere? Who is going to collect the taxes? Is it where I reside or who I'm selling to?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Could it be indirect? Because, I mean, if the goods, for instance, if the goods will be shipped abroad, there will be some taxes.
There's some taxes paid along the line, yes. That is true. Well, think about it. That right there is already designed somewhat. The taxes on those already designed. What they're really looking at is your income.
Income tax, yeah.
Tax on what you're doing. So they went to the books with the smartest people in the industry. They went, I think they deliberated for like 6 months. They came back and said, let it go.
Okay. What would the life of a child born in the last, let's say, 5-10 years?
That's right.
Be like when they become adults? Because at 24 months, you give them a computer, you give them a phone,
a tablet.
They are able to navigate.
Hence.
They can't talk yet, but they are able to operate these. I don't want to use the French that is in my head to use now.
We don't understand French.
No, exactly. So what would the life of such a child, my granddaughter, before she was 2 years, you'd give her a phone. Click, 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 click. She has gone to YouTube. Perhaps she's gone to her cartoons, and she's sitting down happily, giggling away, watching her cartoons. She can't even say mommy yet, but she can operate these things. What kind of adult would that person grow up to be? And what kind of lifestyle do you envisage that kind of person is going to have?
Unregulated.
Wow.
Unregulated.
Unregulated is a very good word for that. See, sometimes when you're trying to foresee something or kind of calculate what the outcome would be, you're grossly underestimating a lot of things. With technology, let me tell you this first of all. I have a little boy in my neighborhood, right? He's going to be 2. It's not 2 yet.
See?
He would take his father's phone and go like this and go like this. The boy can navigate to a movie and play it.
Not 2.
How? Well, I would have to credit the the architects of the applications and the architects of the UI, because if you and I, having not touched this thing before, can get to places without anyone teaching you, because that's where they're going. If you know, it used to be a time where everything you did on the computer or on the phone was physically interacting with it. Now, voice. I wrote about a 300-page dissertation. I did not type once.
Oh. Dictate.
I dictated it. Now, where they're going now, because there's AI, and that's going to bring a slew.
It has begun.
I'm telling you, the thing is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, and you just can't put a finger on where we're going with it.
So what should parents be doing?
Parents need to spend that time. There are a lot of tools out there where you can restrict your children from certain things, and you need to use them. Because of the nonchalantness of parents, the negligent aspect of things where you're only worried about what you're doing, how you're going to do this and do that and get this going. You tend to just take your children, dump them on somebody, whether it be a niece, a nephew, a babysitter, whatever. Not somebody with full interest in what that baby turns out to be.
Or even dump them on technology.
Oh,
you remember we had a guest here who said, look, how do we even raise children these days? Okay, this child is disturbing me, please take this.
Take that and go.
And then just go and be playing.
And you doing what you're doing, you're not looking at what the baby is
paying attention.
looking at.
So how injurious is that? Because
oh, man.
A good number of people watching now are wondering. Because they are overwhelmed themselves. They have to go to work 9 to 5, get home at 9 p.m.
Absolutely. See, they call something keeping up with the Joneses. And when there's a family and you're looking out there to see or to look at who you measure up with, or have you measured up with your next door neighbor, I mean, it just happens. It happens to where you get to neglect the real important things, because now you've picked up something that is not important. Again, going back to spend more time on important things. You just sit down there, you worry only about what you're doing. Meanwhile, that same time that you're supposed to be watching your children, monitoring them, giving them advices, they come to you, ask a question, you could probably turn them to something else, or, circumvent that question, go somewhere else. We already have a lot of things that these children will ask you that you feel as a parent you can't tell them now.
But they already know.
They already know. Would you rather they know
from you
or from somebody else or technology? And the way technology works, it just dumps it all on them.
Did you see the video of a car factory that only had about 6 human beings? All robots. No leave of absence, no break, no lunch hour, no coffee break.
That's right.
The machines are just going.
That's right.
I mean, what's the implication of that on our lives in a short period of time?
Well, if you noticed, in Nigeria as a country, we have an all-time high level of unemployment. But what that has done is make people think out of the box, create their own little thing, and this and that. Now, that's a good thing. But what it does is, and they're battling with that also now in the U.S. In fact, there's a bill on the table that they're working on right now to see if they can restrict children from having certain types of businesses, because they say, okay, a company, you cannot give this child this much money for just appearing and being a spokesman. Now, the child that you're talking about is an influencer, has loads and loads of millions of people following them. I don't know. I think this thing's over sometimes. I've not grayed yet, but I think I can feel it coming from inside my head, about to come out and turn all gray, you know? But we still can do something about it. We still can do something about some things about it.
Now, the impact of technology on our lives, well, let's just say technology has altered our lives in a significant number of ways.
Absolutely.
In terms of communication, that has greatly improved.
Oh, beautiful.
Because,
those are part of the advantages.
Yeah. But then it's easier to shop now. I mean, you can literally, Alera was trying to shop on Instagram a little while ago. You have more access or better access to information. I love you.
You can bank without leaving your house.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
You can do so many things.
You shop, you live, and that also causes people to become recluses.
Which is where I'm going.
Okay.
Now, so it's that balance that is delicate. You need to improve your motor skills by moving.
That's right.
But now, with the ease of technology, you literally just sit down at home.
Go figure why we have a lot of diseases around now.
Exactly. So it's that balance.
Obesity being the major one amongst them.
But there is one that we are not even looking at, and that is the mental health that we talked about earlier.
Mental health, unfortunately, in this part of the world, and when I'm saying that, I have to, draw a circle around Africa. Is not looked upon in the right way. And we don't recognize it often enough, fast enough, when you can do something about it. Look at suicide. There was a time in this same country we're in, you keep hearing it, somebody jumps off something, parks right there beside the ocean and just flips over. Now, for someone to get to that point, they must have given a lot of signs. Those signs elude us because we're not paying attention to them.
But they themselves have become recluses, as you say.
Exactly. Because, and coupled with no checkpoints here in this, I've noticed that there's so many things that can happen in this country that it will never pass in other countries. It will never pass. I don't know why that's with us. Yeah, I don't know what we're planning on doing. Our lawmakers, they need to get more with the way things are.
Times.
Yeah, times. And see what we can do about these things. But unfortunately, it's none, really, when you think about it, it's none of their concerns.
Remember how many children overseas have committed suicide because they were bullied online?
That's right.
By people they didn't even know. They would tell a child that it was too fat, and before you know what is happening, more messages come to him that he's too fat, and the next thing he's doing is going to kill himself.
And those are the ones that are, regressive in their behavior. They're just inward.
I think what
introverts.
Yes. What I can just draw from all of these, Mr. Salawe, is a need for parents to pay attention to the important things.
Absolutely.
And even the parents themselves.
Not just parents, people.
Parents
adults.
first. Parents themselves need to be parented.
Exactly.
So on this particular
Exactly.
matter, because once it is new, you just almost are not able to get over it. I'm sure there is a conversation we'll continue because it's very, very, it affects our lives in...
It's very, very now.
In fact, as we sit here...
And it's possibly even getting worse.
As we sit here, things are going on, whether it be in the mind, in our lives, and that we ourselves are succumbing to. You know? Unknowingly. That's the word.
But one thing that I know right now is that we have to end this segment.
Okay.
That one is not unknown. And we just have to thank you for being here and trust that maybe we do this further because at the end of the day, it's very, very important for people to know that there is technology and then there is life. There are two different things and then they integrate. Bolaji Salawe, ICT expert, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
So we're back in another minute or two to take on
the home stretch.
And you were telling us about this particular
person, an actress, a pretty well-known actress. Do you remember that movie Domitilla?
Uh-oh.
And all the noise it made when it came out. Oh, that commercial was something else.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Then there was a song. Don't go there. We'll be right back.
So you did vex like this. Even as you vex, you are beautiful, my love. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know, so you're missing me. Ignore my text, you did punish me, my love. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If I could, I'll make a time machine, my boo. Rewind it and be a disciple. And I believe in me and you. Don't be like you. I'm finna try, but I never could. My girl, wanna be by you, but you know pick up. I wanna make it up to you, my ruby. You shine like a million stars. You're always in my head. Girl, you don't give me a chance, and I'm in my ways for you, my ruby. Should I get you a billion van? You're always in my head. Girl, you don't give me a chance, like we start all over. Hopelessly, I'm falling over and over again for your chocolate skin. Helpless me, I'd be hot guy, but girl, you make me weak. Endlessly, staring at your picture, girl, and wondering what's wrong with me. What is wrong with me? What have you done to me?
The best thing will happen to me.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
Most beautiful I ever seen. You did take care of me. The only guy we had to see. I never don't know what will happen to me. I let a good one go. I let a good one go. Stupid me, go join stingy man. But baby girl, you don't say me no stingy, yo. When I don't tell them, make them free me. Make we start all over.
Your name go open doors. You self go be a boss. Amen. Amen. Everything you put your hand go up. Your name go open doors. You self go be a boss. Amen. Amen. Every hustler getting paid. Where the hustle go come to pay. Your own enough to take. Amen. If you don't find work, do your own. God self go do his own. And flesh go cover bone. Amen. Amen. If you believe it, say amen. If you believe it, say amen. If you believe it, say amen. 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 Everything you put your hand go up. Your name go open doors. You self go.
Can I be that?
Well,
how's the artist talking?
for those of you who watch the long-running soap, in fact, the longest-running Nigerian soap called Tinsel, you will recognize Inspector Sankey. Hi, Inspector.
Very good to be
Are
here.
you
How
really
are you doing?
We're fine.
Are you inspecting here?
Yes, of course. Naturally. We do these things off the studio sometimes.
Well, her real name is actually Anne Njamanze.
Yes.
And she's been in Nollywood for one of the oldest people in Nollywood, 1994. Do you remember that movie, Domitilla? I mentioned it before we went on break to bring her on. Domitilla.
You know, she's one of those people they call veterans.
Yes, veteran.
Are you sure I qualify? No.
What struck me that time of Domitilla was the commercial to make you watch it. Oh, that guy is...
Yes, it was something.
He was something else.
It wasn't the...
Domitilla, oh! Welcome, Anne. Good to see you. Not on the set of Tinsel.
Yes,
not as Inspector Sankey. You've been in this job now for a long time. What has your experience been? Has it been good? Has it been bad? Has it been ugly? Or a mixture of all the above?
It's a potpourri of all of it, but I thankfully will say it's been more of good. It's been able to open doors that I didn't think ordinarily would just open. I mean, because people see you, they recognize you, they grant you certain favors, you know, and honor you where you're not expected to be honored. So it's beautiful, I would want to say that.
How do you juggle being an actor with being a mother and a wife?
Okay. First of all, I'm not married. I'm a single mother.
I apologize.
But that is not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. and I have 2 grown-up children. Now I think they're learning to mother me.
Oh, okay.
I told you some parents need parents.
To keep them from their phones.
Exactly, it's their turn. So, and then with work too, why not? You just find space in between. Certain sacrifices you have to make. You can't help it. Win some, lose some. But then when...
But Anne, when they were younger,
yes,
and you had to go on location, how did you cope with that?
Oh, no. I had family, but they weren't always there because they also had things they needed to do. So sometimes it resulted in losing the role and just staying home. Yes, and just staying home. And then those periods when they had to go to school, it was crazy. It was, but... Hey, we're here.
Right? You know, one of the natural things that will come to my mind in line with that same question that she asked you is there has been evolution for you in the industry. And one of the things that happens to anyone, you know, in your space is once you are innocuous, now you can't even walk down the road without, you know, getting catcalls or even being noticed and all of that. But it doesn't still take away the responsibility you have as an individual. How do you navigate those various roles that you have to play in society?
First of all, I think it has a lot to do with the individual. You decide to play down to earth, reachable, with boundaries. That can happen. Some people actually enjoy that euphoria of having people always scream, oh, that's you and that's her. I've learned to live above of that. Look, when Nigeria, reality dawns on you, we all need to work and make money, you know. So you bring yourself, for me, you bring yourself to a place where it is possible for you to live life like a human being.
Down to earth.
Down to earth.
Let's get a little real here. Everyone sees the glitz and glamour of celebrity status. What are the downtimes, or how do I put that? You know, the other side that people don't see.
Everyone sees that, and everyone actually expects a lot from you. They want you to be superhuman. Those are the downsides. And so, what any other person would do and get away with it is like a mountain. I say, you've committed a crime. What you're doing is wrong. So, it's crazy, especially if you find yourself wanting to keep up a particular yes, about yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you find that you just go delve and you forget what reality is.
That resonates so well. When I first started doing Sunrise, I had a driver and I wanted to eat boli.
Okay.
Please stop, I want to buy boli. Madam, no, you can't buy boli on the roadside. I said, why not? People will recognize you.
You see.
You're on TV. I said, my friend, stop the car before I sack you. Let me chop my boli.
Imagine, you know.
So because I appear on TV, I shouldn't chop boli?
Yes, I shouldn't be me.
I beg, stop, let me buy my boli.
But you know, really, well, thankfully, I'm not like you people already. I'm still on the background.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, but it's that transition there are a number of people as well. Yes, thank you very much. There are a number of people, right now who are finding it hard managing that celebrity status. And there are those who will get into it whether they want to or not. They will get into it not because they have anything to do with it. They just will get into it.
Yes, because they just have to get
because, you become a TV star, or you're singing, or you are on... Now, you don't even need to be on TV. The social media is there, Instagram, you name it, all over the place.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier now, that's the point, to become a celebrity.
Is it?
So to speak.
Okay.
Because with Instagram, with YouTube and all those things, you can just circulate to,
that is true.
Wherever and all of that. So managing that without any sort of management around you. With TV, you have a bit of something like a management, whatever, around you. But when you're on your own, what's the transition that people need to make?
Like I said earlier, you must learn where to draw the line. For yourself, for family, for friends, for where it is you want to be seen, how it is you want to be seen. But in doing that, do not cross that line that makes you feel, I can't see the sun because I don't know who is outside.
Share any such experience of yours.
Okay, fine. Now, I work with the National Theatre of Nigeria, National Troupe. So, we had to go some years back to present a play for, I think it was 100 years of Nigeria or so, something like that. And 100 days, I don't know, we had to celebrate something in Abuja. And then we were backstage. I was with my colleagues, changing, of course. It's normal, it's stage. And one of the managers there said, Auntie Me, you cannot change here. I said, why? I'm going on stage right now. What do you mean? I said, no, wait. Hey, let's go and give. I said, you mean I'll go to that place, change, then come back here? You want to kill me? Come on. Let's be real. So people expect this, yes. They expect this crazy. And I love Mommy Taiwa Jaila said. You should be around her. Oh, God. She's humble to an intimidating state.
Yeah.
You look at her and you say, if she's this, what really am I?
Who am I?
Yes. And again, society too plays its own part. They put a lot of pressure. That's what I say. If you want it to affect you in that way, it will.
Well, just a quick one. We have a communication from the elections, the supplementary elections that we mentioned earlier. Itokwe Kute has a report for us. Itokwe, go ahead.
What might attract you in one or Abuja village, all here in Ikedu local government area of Imo State. This polling unit is one polling unit where supplementary election is holding today in Ikedu in Federal Constituency. And according to INEC officials here, the number of registered voters expected to vote is 383. I was speaking to voters who said INEC officials arrived early and voting started around 8:30 a.m. this morning, and voting is still ongoing. People are coming in, get accredited by the previous machine, then go there and turn prints, then cast their ballots in the box in front. And it's been peaceful so far here at this polling unit. And let me also tell you that aside the Inditoli Ikedu Federal Constituency supplementary elections in Imo State, we also have elections in Isu, Idiapo South, and Ayazu state constituencies where elections are holding today. We'll bring you details of these supplementary elections in Imo State as we try to cover, monitor the elections around the areas where the supplementary elections are holding this morning. It's back to you in Lagos.
Thank you, Itoko. You know, that's our correspondent in Imo State. As I said earlier, if you really want to catch some of that information, just go to our Twitter handle. It has the blow-by-blow account. One of the things that I've seen is that some voter apathy in various parts of where that is happening, but, you know, it's important for all of us to do, just to keep in touch with all that is happening right there. It's even very, very interesting. In some areas, there's voter apathy. In other areas, there is no voter apathy. But hey, you know, and this is River State now, where all of that is happening. Well, most certainly, as I said at the top of the hour, more of that will come to you. But back to this conversation we're having with you. And so, we also hear, forgive me, I'm going to have to put you on the spot for a bit. We also hear all kinds of brickbats among celebrities sometimes. To a large extent, celebrities are seen as role models, and then we have brickbats from them from time to time. What position should people hold? Because I'm her fan, I'm not your fan, or I'm your fan, I'm not her fan, and then we are fighting each other on your behalf.
That's very interesting. First of all, I do not subscribe to that at all. Keep your business. Even if I have, an issue with you, especially with a colleague, I keep it out. If you can't settle it amicably, then really, it should be the last thing to do, to put out your dirty little in public. But I think it is a form of entertainment for people. Oh, really? Yes. You see, I say it, mental ill health is rife in this country. Because how do you explain it? You come out and maybe you're fighting over a man and the whole world needs to know that. It's embarrassing. Duh. It is. It's true. It's embarrassing. Why would you do that? So let the public have their fun if they must. Oh. That's my opinion.
I don't believe that.
What? Really? Anyway, I've had a good laugh about that. So we don't have too much time. And you're also a writer and a producer.
Yes.
How do you do all that? You're a motivational speaker, you're a cultural arts officer, you're a voiceover artist. Only you.
Is God.
Hmm? It's God.
Yes.
It's God that is doing the voiceover.
It's God.
That is doing all those roles.
Well, that gives me the ability to try. To only try.
Well, you must have made some transitions in your career.
Yes. There was a time there was nothing really. Nobody was like...
what do you mean, nothing?
Nothing. Like, as far as Nollywood was concerned, there was a time I was off the grid.
Well, did you offend anybody?
No. It's just Nollywood is harsh this way. And I think, of course, most of creative industry, they don't see you, they don't remember you. Yes, so I went through that phase, and it was tough. It wasn't easy. And so I got a job. Somewhere along there, I got a job, and I said, hey, acting won't pay the bills all the time. So get an everyday job, get a skill, learn a skill, and hone your skills and fly with it. And it was when that started, somehow, I have a man called Ehi Omokwale. He said, no, you sit down, write this drama, radio drama scripts for me, you do the voicing. And money was coming in. But you see, as far as Nollywood was concerned, nobody was seeing me for a long time. You have to be able to sustain yourself financially first, and then sustain yourself up here so that you don't lose it. It's not easy. It's not easy to just maybe be amongst so many people and they say, who's that? Oh. But now, that's different again. And that's why I say it just has to be God. For you to leave all that and still come again, be on the lips of people and still come again, it's...
Well, there is something I need you to speak to. Thank you, Lara, for asking that question. You spaded it. How severe, how significant is the challenge of mental health among the creatives?
Oh, dear. We live in denial in this country a lot. And seriously, when you speak to some of the creatives, you begin to ask yourself, what's off? First of all, the pressure on them could push them to,
pressure to create?
Yes, but not create, push them to that place where you don't even know you're losing it.
What kind of pressure? What's causing
pressure?
the pressure?
It can be pressure from society, pressure from trying to meet up, and look like...
keeping up with the Joneses?
Keeping up with the Joneses, just putting up appearances and all of that. That could be very pressuring. And then people around you too. Your love life, your religious life, everything. You can imagine. So it could, for some people, you could actually break and you don't know when you cross it. And you forget that, oh, I have a role to play in society and I have to catch myself together. And this is not a country where people really want to look at that. No, I'm a mad person. But really, a lot of people need to actually go get themselves evaluated and continue in society. There's a lot of pressure.
Does that then call for the individual himself or herself to foresee or
The individual may not, but let people around them be able to tell you the truth.
So they need that support system around themselves.
Yes, they do.
At the same time, there is a role that superstardom plays in the mind. Me like this. Don't need anybody.
Okay. All right.
And you know now.
That's dangerous, man. That's a dangerous place.
It happens.
It does happen. That's why I'm telling you. Do you think people who think like that are okay? No. Yeah. They're really... I give it to a lot of my colleagues who are.
And we've got to run in a minute or so. What are you working on now, apart from Inspector Sankey? What are you working on now?
No, nothing for now. I do some of my underwears now and again. I send it to my sister who's in Canada. And yes, I know.
Well, you sell underwear?
Yes.
Oh,
how about that? What?
Nothing.
What else do you sell? What else do you sell?
No, that's all. That's all.
You actually make them?
Yes, I have someone make them for me, and then I tag them, and then...
I'm almost certain that you will still find them on Instagram as well. But don't answer that yet. We'll have to let her go.
And Njemanze, Inspector Sankey.
Detective.
She's not inspecting.
Detective.
Skilled up now.
I know.
Detective Sankey. I'm sure if you all watch Tinsel, you would recognize that face because she's in almost every episode.
Abi. She has to detect everything.
She's, how do they say, solving cases every week.
All over.
Thank you for
and
your
her
time
best friend, Brenda Mensah.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up today, let's quickly take a trip to Adamawa State, where Emperor Simon is covering the supplementary elections for us. Emperor?
All right, thank you very much, and welcome to Adamawa State, where we're following up on the supplementary elections here in the state. And I tell you, there are expectations about what these supplementary elections will be about. The people are ready and anxious, waiting. But the situation here in Bulky Ward, where we are at the moment, which is one of the wards that that were affected during the March 18 governorship election, is that voting is yet to commence as of now, 11:56 a.m. The people have been waiting. Materials are still being sorted out by INEC officials, and we don't know how soon voting will commence. But one thing we know is that in Adamawa State, there are 20 local government areas where supplementary elections are expected to hold. 20 for governorship election, and then 4 local government areas where state assembly elections are expected to hold. Newman is one of the local government areas affected, and it has 14 polling units. 13 allocated here in Bolki ward, where we have over 7,000 registered voters. And let me just give you the accurate number of the registered voters that we have here. We have a total of 7,805 registered voters and 7,357 PVCs collected. The people are ready, waiting anxiously for voting to commence. But for now, we're following up and we will keep you updated.
That's really concerning that at 11:58 now, elections are yet to begin at that polling unit or polling area in Adamawa State. Well, we don't want to believe that at least INEC officials are already there. And that's the much of the program we can take today.
So we'll bring you a fresh edition next week. I'm Alera Edu, wishing you a very restful weekend. See you next week.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. God bless you.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television, ubiquitous.
Coming up on Metrofile today.
Why you for lie? Why you for lie? Why is
The much anticipated crime thriller Gangs of Lagos premieres in Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. Also on Metrofile, the office of the First Lady of Lagos State celebrates Easter season with the 2023 Family Easter Feast tagged, Hallelujah, the Lamb of God is alive forever.
To the glory of God, in the name of the Father, the Son.
Plus, we witnessed the commissioning of the ultra-modern Kike Lomoro Hall by the Old Boys of Baptist Academy, Lagos, Teachers Union, and the School Authority. Hello and welcome to another edition of Metrofile right here on Channels Television. Well, I hope your week has been going well. If it has, good for you. If it hasn't, well, it's the weekend and I hope you'll find time to just relax. Let's begin by doing that for you on the program today. So hop on this ride with us and let's spend this 30 minutes of fun together. While you do, don't forget, watch out for flash photography. Once again, welcome to Metrofile. I'm Anne Nwawadu. We begin with movies. Let's check out sights and sounds from the premiere of the much-anticipated crime thriller, Gangs of Lagos. Well, this event had an interesting theme, the Owambe Gangster, and trust Nigerians and entertainers, they definitely brought their creativity into this theme. Check it out.
Fashion and movie making seems to go hand in hand these days as movie premieres continuously come up with groundbreaking fashion themes and guests never disappoint.
Saleko is a jungle. Everyone does what they must to survive.
How? 1,000,001 people willing to die.
The much-anticipated crime thriller Gangs of Lagos premieres in Lagos, a film made by critically acclaimed filmmaker Jade Oshiberu.
I like different genres, but crime thrillers I've liked since I was a child. I've loved actually since I was a child. I love Martin Scorsese, I love Quentin Tarantino. So that genre, whether it's just crime thrillers or even gangster type crime, I've been obsessed with since I was a teenager. So yeah, there was no way I wouldn't go to that. But because of the way Nollywood is structured, typically dramas and comedies are easier to make. So I started out my career with that, with what was easier to execute, and then built up the resources, the confidence to go into crime thrillers.
Saleko is a jungle. Everyone does what they must to survive. The rules of the streets were simple. Be and I am Mori. I want literacy. It was the best of times in Saleko, but nothing good lasts long. It's the kings that never buried alone.
I'm the man already. You. Oba. Got my man already. Brody. My man done ready. I'm the.
One day, their eyes will open to their power, and there will be no hiding place for the wicked.
The online audience, as well as those in attendance, couldn't get enough of the fashion theme of the night, Owambe Gangster, as pictures and videos of the futurist interpretation of African attire began flooding their timeline. The